Hello, I'm Ford Bannister, founder and principal attorney at Ford Bannister LLC, an international intellectual property and e-commerce focused American law practice. Today, I'd like to address something called drop shipping. It's something that people in e-commerce are generally aware of and familiar with, I think. In its simplest terms, it can just be a situation in which a seller online has a relationship with a supplier and they agree that they're not actually going to take possession of the goods. They're not going to have them in their hand. That when they get an order, then they'll send that to the supplier and the supplier will send it on. I'm going to call that white hat drop shipping. And then there's another form that I think most e-commerce entrepreneurs are also familiar with, that's black hat drop shipping, which means some software is often used, and I'm aware that there's a lot of companies, especially in Israel, that provide this software. No comment on the functionality. I haven't looked at all of them, but the problem is, what happens is there's arbitrage between maybe eBay and Amazon. So if somebody will put a listing on eBay, it's supposed to order automatically from Amazon, but this software, what it actually does is it may just completely pull the listing from the original listing. And I've seen this before where there's copyright protected images that there's no permission to use, and that is copyright infringement. There'll be situations in which maybe the product description, the company description, the person who's reposting this and trying to work drop shipping arbitrage in a completely unscrupulous black hat manner, what they'll do is they'll end up holding themselves out as the actual intellectual property rights holder. And that's not good. That's not something that can be done. So also, look, it's generally against the black hat drop shipping, what I'm describing. It's generally against the policies of every e-commerce platform, eBay, Amazon. They can and will shut you down for it, and they should. Because, look, everybody hates this. Everybody. I mean, somebody orders something, and they order it from eBay. It shows up in an Amazon pouch. And then it may come, it may come from the actual trademark rights holder. Not always. What happens sometimes, especially I think with some of the software, is that it may actually be the source is not an actual source. It's some counterfeiter or some intellectual property, pirating copyright infringer, and the order is actually coming from that person. So what they ended up selling are counterfeits, but when it does come from the actual source, when and if, then it'll really just plays havoc with the supply lines. If it gets to the actual customer, maybe they're mad at the actual seller, the intellectual property rights holder, instead of this uninvited middleman who came in and they want to call themselves a drop shipper. And I've run into people that were just really viscerally self-righteous about this. And I know there's folks out there that they're selling these programs and they're, come to my seminar. It's going to be get rich quick. It's going to be so easy. Just, set this up. Look, it's not a great business. It provides no value to anyone. It's just a get rich quick scheme. And, it ultimately doesn't work out. People do get sued, and rightfully so. And just because they say the word drop shipping does not mean that they're just excluded from liability. So keep this in mind, and keep in mind the distinction I made between white hat and black hat. Perfectly fine. If you don't want to take possession of goods, then as far as intellectual property is concerned, intellectual property rights, if you've got everything in order with the supplier, then you should be in good order. But when people go out and they just start putting things out and offering other people's goods and utilizing their intellectual property without their permission, being an uninvited middleman, that is problematic, and liability may be imposed for this under American law, whether or not the goods actually come from the trademark rights holder. It's nuanced, as most things are in law, but that's just a fact. So keep this in mind if you consider any type of drop shipping business. And if you're an e-commerce entrepreneur, or you have a company, you've got intellectual property, and you find that all these people there, and maybe that's actually what they're doing, but still they don't get to come in and just utilize their intellectual property without permission. There are things that you can do about this. You can stop this practice. So either way, if you're on either side of this issue and you have a legal issue that needs to be addressed, Don't hesitate to contact Ford Bannister LLC for a free consultation today.